Hello, welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Tyrone Walter Thies. And I was looking for someone to fit the description of a John Doe, and I couldn't find. He didn't show up, but now he showed up, so I don't know why. February 10th, 1994, he was 20 years old. He was missing from Gresham, Oregon. This is like 20 minutes away from where that John Doe is found. He's 6'4". It says he has brown hair, brown eyes, and you don't realize some people have brown eyes, and it could be mixed up with another color. Because my eyes were part half brown, half green, and everybody considered them brown. But now they're green, and there's hardly any brown in them. But when I was younger, they were dark brown, and then they changed at some point. Um, which it runs in my family, I guess. I didn't know that, but here's a picture of him, and here's a picture of him, and you're trying to look at his eyes to see, and they look like they're light color, but I don't know. And this is the John Doe that was found 20 minutes away, but this says he's 6'4". This John Doe is 6'6", so it may not be him because it does say brown hair, hazel eyes. A year after he went missing, this John Doe is found, and we'll look at the images. There's other people that look similar to this John Doe as well. That could be the John Doe, but here's the pictures. So, and this young man is being accused of murder. And we don't know if he's innocent or guilty, but he's being accused. Okay, so this John Doe was found in Portland, Oregon, at age 20 to 35 years old. Says he was 6'6". Extremely tall white male, 20 to 30s in age, found in the Columbia River. Recognizable face, brown hair, hazel eyes. Extremely tall. Brown wallet, no ID. Talks about what he was wearing. He had black walking shoes, so he wasn't swimming and drowned. He had black walking shoes on, size 13 at the time. So it sounds like it was a homicide. And there were people that wanted to kill this young man. So, and see, it's only 20 minutes away. Now we're going to look at this case. The Leathers Oil Company murders refers to an unsolved mass murder that occurred in Gresham, Oregon, United States, January 17, 1984. The victims were Virginia K. Endicott, born in 1946, Rosalie Faye Gertz, born 1942, and Mary Beth Carey, born 1968. So she's young. Each of whom were employed at the Leathers Oil Company gas station. Their bodies were discovered in a storage room on the premises, each having been shot to death. The station was also robbed of about $9,000, which I find shocking that they even had $9,000 at the gas station being in the safe and the register, because you remember back in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s, there were people that traveled and robbed gas stations. There were people that were in their 40s and 50s that would get jobs at gas stations to get promoted enough and then rob the gas stations after they got promoted, trying to figure out how to get away with it. Anyway, Tyrone Walter Thies was born in 1973. He was a former employee. He had been terminated. He worked there for like a year and a half. He'd been terminated about 5 months before this. This is approximate. For stealing in August 1993. He was charged. He's been charged with 3 counts of aggravated murder, but he disappeared a few weeks after the victims' bodies were discovered. And if I was accused of murdering people, whether I did it or not, I might go missing and take off running. His cousin, Lawrence Benjamin Sherp, as well as his friend Lori Ann Stevens, who they later call Stevens, which makes you think it's a male, not a female, because they're calling her by her last name, and it sounds like a male name. They were both convicted because they pled. I think they both plead. I think they took a plea bargain and they served 10 years in prison. But it sounds like they waited in the vehicle, had no idea he was going to rob or kill them, if he in fact even did. It sounds like they gave him a ride. He went in and came back out, like if he was looking for a job, trying to get his job back or something. And then they left. And so because they took him by there, it sounds like they believe that he might have robbed him and killed him, but it doesn't sound like, I don't see any evidence mentioned in this. So I don't know if there's any evidence, but I just don't see it mentioned here. They were both convicted, but let's keep reading, and served 10 years in prison for their roles as accessories to the murders. The case received national attention, and it was profiled, it says, on an NBC documentary series, Unsolved Mysteries, which I haven't seen it. Fox Broadcasting Company series, America's Most Wanted. I haven't seen that either, so there might be more evidence, but I haven't seen those. The crime was branded one of the most notorious murders in the Pacific Northwest by the Oregonian in 2016. As of 2021, his whereabouts still remain unknown. So he's 20 years old. He was a station manager. He worked there from August 1993 until allegedly stealing $30 from the station. He worked there for a year and a half and allegedly stole $30. So, and that was when that wasn't when he started work. That's when he got terminated or fired or suspended. Suspended to me doesn't mean fired, but I guess they fired him. So he had began working there April 9th, 1982. So he worked there almost a year and a half. After being terminated by the company's supervisor, Harry Staten, he returned the stolen money and formally apologized. Okay, on the morning of January 17th, 1994, what is this, like 5 months later, a customer entered the Leathers Oil Company gas station and found the bodies of the 3 women who had been murdered. And then they said there was approximately $9,000 taken from the station's safe and register, which I find shocking that they would have $9,000 at the station's safe and register back then, because there were so many different people that were traveling, robbing places and things like that. So law enforcement determined that the victims had been taken into the storage garage at the station at gunpoint and ordered to lie face down on the floor before each was shot in the back of the head, execution style. A break in the case came like a month later when an informant, who I believe may have been the woman in the car's husband, because somebody called law enforcement with a lead, and maybe he thought that he was the one that did it. So law enforcement got his name the next day. So Southeast Portland, Oregon apartment was searched by law enforcement 2 days later. And it doesn't say that a money was found or a gun was found. And I'm wondering, he doesn't have a vehicle because he got a ride. Where did he get a gun? Did he even have a gun? Because he lived in an apartment and he didn't have a vehicle. So, okay, so February 16th, 1994, a judge signed an arrest warrant accusing him of 3 counts of murder. They couldn't find him. He took off, right? Or something happened. He was either murdered or killed or something happened to him, but they couldn't find him. They've never been able to find him since. A federal warrant was issued the following day claiming that he fled to Idaho to avoid prosecution. According to the warrant, he had disappeared on February 9th. His friend, 23-year-old Lori Stevens, and his cousin, 20-year-old Lawrence Scherf, were questioned in early February. In an effort to locate him, notable physical details about his parents were released. Specifically, he had a tattoo of a Black Panther on his abdomen. Okay, so it was noted that he may have used an alias name. So Lori Stevens was arrested April 13th, 1984, and charged with felony murder for driving the getaway vehicle because she gave him a ride there from the scene. Scherf, who is also the vehicle, his cousin, which they're using the last name, was arrested 2 days later. And according to Lori Stevens' husband, she had driven both men to the gas station on the morning of the murders, but she had no idea he intended to rob the gas station. And both of them waited in the car while he went in the gas station. He entered and exited the station, which makes it sound like he wasn't even in there that long, which I don't know if he was, but that's what it makes it sound like. So it doesn't sound like, I don't hear that they heard any gunshots. And I know they would have heard gunshots, and that's not mentioned. So they have no evidence against him unless they get these two to take a plea deal and testify against him. So, despite this, Lori Stevens, she pled guilty to her charges, even though she just gave him a ride there. Okay, so both Lori Stevens and the young man, Sheriff, his cousin, were convicted and served 10 years in prison for their murders. Plea bargain, as part of a plea bargain agreement for their reduced prison sentence, they both agreed to testify against him. So, other than them having a plea bargain agreement, I don't know if they had any evidence against him or not, because it doesn't mention that they found any money, it doesn't mention that they found a gun or anything like that. And I know people, when they work somewhere, even if it's bad, they might go back and try to get their job back later because they need a job. And I just find it shocking that there was $9,000 in the safe and the cash register when people were going around robbing places and traveling and robbing places back then as well, because that's a lot of money. You would have it in the bank, you would think. And I find it shocking that a 20-year-old who lives in an apartment, doesn't have a vehicle, gets a ride to go somewhere, is going to murder people and rob the place while he's getting a ride there. And the other two people are just waiting in the car. You know, if you're going to rob a place and murder people, you're not going to get a ride to do it. That just seems crazy to me. And then they take the plea deal and they get 10 years in prison. So I'm missing a lot of information. I'd like to know, did they find a gun? Did they find money? Did they hear gunshots? Or did they just take the plea deal? So they served 10 years in prison for with their plea deal, and he's never been found. So anyway, I find this very unsettling and interesting, because there's this in this newspaper article, the driver's sentence is 10 years. The mother of one of the girls says that I want you just as dead as my baby, the girl's mother, Irene Willer, said, which is understandable that she feels that way. Of course she wants whoever killed her daughter to be dead. So there are people out there that wanted him dead at the time because they felt like he was guilty. And I don't know if he was or not. And I think this is a picture of his cousin. So I'm looking at the John Doe picture, and I'm wondering, because that was a picture of, I believe, his cousin. And here's pictures of him. And I don't know if John Doe could be him, because there's other people that have similar qualities in that area that went missing around that time. And then there's a couple other John Does. There's one in Colton, California, was only 6'2", and he was supposed to be 6'4". Found June 9th, 1994. Near some power lines. All parts recovered. Brown hair. Unknown color of eyes. Talks about what they were wearing. Dark brown straight hair. San Bernardino County. And then we have this John Doe in Portland, Oregon from May 9, 1995. Then we have a John Doe that was 6'2" in New York. And like I said, I do searches, and sometimes all of them don't come up because later on I'll find somebody else that didn't come up in my search for some reason. And so please pray for these people's victims, the victims of these families that were murdered at this oil company and their families, because that is just horrific. And also please pray for the families and the loved ones of the people that you know, everybody involved. I think that we should pray for everyone involved in their families as well. And the one John Doe was found just like 20 minutes away, the Portland to Gresham. And like I said, I don't know if that could be him because there's other people that have similar qualities that I've done videos on. So I would like comments if you're watching this. So feel free to leave comments and let me know what your thoughts are. And if you have more information or if you've seen those other videos and if anybody actually heard gunshots, if they found a gun that matched, if they found the money or anything like that, or if it's all just based on those witnesses' testimonies, and if on giving him a ride there and him walking in and walking out. So, and I know people that even if you get a job and it ends badly, you might go back. You know, part of the reason that he may have given the money back and apologized, maybe he was going to go back and try to get his job back because he enjoyed working there. So, and maybe I just don't know. I don't know if he killed them or if the timing was just a coincidence, but he may have done it. I just have so many questions. So feel free to leave comments and let me know if you have any information, and have a blessed day. Bye-bye.